I'm a new corrections officer at a minimum security facility. D-Wing has been sealed for 30 years, but someone inside still orders commissary. They tell you three things in orientation that actually matter. First, minimum security doesn't mean minimum consequences. Second, the inmates here are mostly white-collar fraud, tax evasion, embezzlement. And they're smarter than you, so don't try to be clever. Third, D-Wing is sealed, has been sealed since 1995, and your job does not involve D-Wing in any capacity. I wrote all three of these down in the little notebook they issued us. Hendricks, the training officer, watched me do it and said nothing. He was a short man with enormous forearms and a face that looked like it had been left in the sun for decades. 26 years at Comfort. He'd outlasted 4 wardens. "You'll be on B-Wing nights," he said. 12-hour shifts, 1800 to 0600. It's quiet. You do rounds every 45 minutes. You count heads. You check locks. You file a report at end of shift. That's it. And if something happens? Nothing happens. It's minimum security. These guys want to go home. They're not going to do anything to jeopardize their release date. He leaned forward slightly. Your biggest problem is going to be boredom. He was right for about 3 weeks. Comfort Federal Correctional Facility sits on the edge of a mid-sized town in central Pennsylvania, bordered on one side by a state highway and on the other by a strip mall that includes a Dollar General, a vape shop, and a Subway. It looks less like a prison and more like a community college from the 1970s. Flat-roofed brown brick spread across a campus of connected buildings with covered walkways between them. No razor wire, a single chain-link perimeter fence, 8 feet tall, monitored by cameras that may or may not work depending on the weather. The facility has 4 residential wings, A through D. A wing houses the short-timers, men with less than 18 months remaining. B wing is general population. C wing is the administrative and program building. Classrooms, chapel, library, the commissary window. D wing is on the eastern edge of the campus, connected to C wing by a breezeway that has been bricked up at both ends. From the outside, D wing looks exactly like the others. Same brown brick, same narrow windows, same flat roof, with the same industrial HVAC units sitting on top. Silent. I asked about it on my 4th day. Not Hendricks. I asked Okafor, another CO who'd been there about 8 years. We were in the break room, which smelled permanently of burnt coffee and microwave popcorn. Budget cuts, Okafor said, not looking up from his phone. They sealed it off in '95 when the population dropped. Asbestos in the walls, lead paint, structural issues in the foundation. Cost more to remediate than to just close it. So it's just sitting there empty? Has been my entire career. Seems like a waste of space. Okafor looked up then, briefly. You want to file a complaint with the Bureau of Prisons about their real estate portfolio. Be my guest. I let it go. The commissary at Comfort operates on a weekly cycle. Inmates fill out order forms, Scantron-style sheets where they bubble in item codes, and submit them at the commissary window in C-Wing on Tuesdays. The orders get processed Wednesday. Pickup is Thursday. It's a simple system. The commissary manager, a civilian named Donna Vickers, has been running it for 11 years. She's efficient, humorless, and keeps meticulous records. I know all this because commissary-related disputes are the single most common issue on B-Wing. Someone's order is wrong, someone's account balance doesn't match, someone got shorted on their ramen count. Petty stuff, but in minimum security, petty stuff is the only stuff. So I learned the system, which is how I noticed the anomaly. It was a Thursday in late October, my 5th week. I was doing a walkthrough of C-Wing during the commissary pickup window. Just observing, part of my rotation. Donna was at the window, handing out mesh bags of items, standard procedure. But on the shelf behind her, on the far left, There was a single bag sitting apart from the others. Different color tag? Red instead of the usual white. "What's that one?" I asked, nodding toward it. Donna didn't look at where I was pointing. "Administrative." "What does that mean?" "It means it's not your concern, Officer Mallory." I let it go then too, but I watched the following Thursday and the Thursday after that. Every week, the red-tagged bag appeared on the shelf. Every week, at some point during the pickup window, it disappeared. I never saw who collected it. I never saw Donna hand it off. Week 7, I mentioned it to Hendricks during a shift briefing. Kept it casual. "Hey, what's the deal with the red tag commissary bags? Administrative orders?" Hendricks was reading from his clipboard. He didn't look up. "Some orders go to staff. Medical, administrative, not unusual." "It's every week though. Same bag, same spot." Now he looked up. "Mallory, you've been here less than 2 months. Focus on your wing, do your counts, write your reports. The day you have nothing on B-Wing to worry about is the day you can start asking about other people's mail." That should have been the end of it. In a rational world, run by rational people, that would have been the end of it. But here's what I didn't tell Hendricks. I'd already looked at the order form. The previous Tuesday, during the submission window, I'd volunteered to help Donna sort the incoming forms, a task she normally did alone. She'd resisted, said she didn't need help, but Lieutenant Garza had told her to accept it because they were short-staffed and the count had to be verified. So she let me in, grudgingly. I sorted, I counted, and near the bottom of the stack, I found a form that was different from the others. Same Scantron sheet, same bubbled-in codes, but the inmate identifier at the top, the 6-digit BOP registration number, started with a prefix I didn't recognize. All the other numbers in the stack started with either 4 or 5. This one started with 0. The name field was filled in by hand, in small, careful block letters, Ephraim T. I checked it against the housing roster on the computer that night during my shift. Thomas Ephraim did not appear in the Comfort inmate database. I searched the BOP inmate locator online. The public one, anyone can use it. No results for that registration number. There was no inmate named Thomas Ephraim at this facility. There hadn't been, as far as I could find, at any federal facility in the system. But someone was submitting his commissary form every week, and someone was filling his order. I told myself I was going to let it go. I told myself for 3 days. On the 4th day, a Monday, I drove to the facility 2 hours before my shift and walked the perimeter. The sun was already low. The sky a flat gray-white that made the brown buildings look like cardboard cutouts. I walked along the fence line on the east side, where D-Wing sat behind its bricked-up breezeway. The windows were intact. That's the first thing I noticed. 30 years sealed, and every window was intact. No cracks, no broken panes, no weathering beyond a uniform layer of grime. The HVAC units on the roof were not running, but they didn't look derelict either. No rust, no bird nests on them. And there was a light on. 3rd floor, 2nd window from the left. A faint yellow glow like a reading lamp. I stood there for maybe 4 minutes watching it. It didn't flicker, didn't move. Just a steady, warm light in a building that hadn't had power for 30 years. I went to my shift. I did my rounds. I counted heads. I wrote my report. The next day, I put in a request to see the facility's utility records. Garza denied it, not angrily. He seemed confused by the request. Utility records? Why? I'm doing a night shift energy audit, part of my own professional development, trying to understand facility systems. He stared at me for a long moment. Mallory, you've been here 7 weeks. I appreciate initiative, but utility records are maintained by facilities management in the regional office. I couldn't get them for you if I wanted to. Could you point me to who could? I could. But I'm going to recommend you focus on your post instead. He wasn't unfriendly about it. He just closed the door. I went to Okafor next, because Okafor was the only person who'd given me a straight answer about anything. I found him in the parking lot after day shift, leaning against his truck, smoking. Quick question, I said. No such thing with you, Mallory. D-Wing. Is it on the grid? He took a drag, let it out slowly. What do you mean? Is it connected to facility power? Does it draw electricity? It's sealed. That's not what I asked. Okafor looked at me then. Really looked at me, the way you look at someone when you're deciding whether they're worth the trouble of an honest answer. Then he dropped his cigarette and ground it out. My 3rd year here, he said. A pipe burst in C-Wing. Maintenance had to trace the water line. They followed it into the basement, where it connects to a shared main that runs under the breezeway. The valve for D-Wing was open, fully open, water flowing into a sealed building. He picked up his keys. I reported it, put it in writing. Next day, the work order was marked complete. No one had gone down there. The valve was still open. I checked. And nothing. I stopped checking. He opened his truck door. Mallory, whatever you think you're figuring out, you're not the first person to notice. You're just the most recent. And the ones before you all came to the same conclusion. Which is that it's not worth it. He got in the truck. There are 37 guys on your wing who need you to pay attention to them. That's the job. He drove away. I want to tell you that I took his advice. I want to tell you that I went back to my rounds and my counts and my reports and let D-Wing sit there in its brown brick silence, drawing water and power from a grid that pretended it didn't exist. But on the following Thursday, I did something I shouldn't have. During commissary pickup, I positioned myself near the back of C-Wing, in the corridor that leads to the records office. It's a blind spot. No cameras, no foot traffic during pickup hours. And from there, I could see the shelf where Donna kept the red-tagged bag. At 14:47, Donna left the commissary window to use the restroom. She was gone for 4 minutes. During those 4 minutes, a man I had never seen before walked through the C-Wing corridor, entered the commissary area through the staff door, picked up the red-tagged bag, and walked out. He was wearing a corrections officer uniform. Our uniform: khaki shirt, dark green trousers, black boots, facility ID badge on a lanyard. But I had never seen him before. Not in briefings, not in the break room, not in the parking lot. He was tall, thin, maybe 60 years old, with gray hair cut close and a face that was, and I'm struggling for the right word here, unfinished. Not deformed, not scarred, just somehow lacking a quality that makes faces feel real. Like a composite sketch that nobody had signed off on. He walked past me at a distance of perhaps 15 feet. He did not look at me. He turned the corner toward the east corridor, the one that ends at the bricked-up breezeway. I followed. By the time I rounded the corner, 4 seconds, maybe 5, the corridor was empty. 60 feet of straight hallway with no doors except the bricked-up breezeway at the far end. Empty. I pulled the commissary records that night, not through official channels. I used Donna's workstation while she was off-site. The login credentials were on a post-it note stuck to her monitor. I know how that sounds. I know what it cost me later. The records went back 12 years. As far as the digital system reached, every week for 12 years, an order had been placed under the name Ephraim T. Registration number 00117-000. Every week, the same items: 4 packets of instant coffee, 2 bars of soap, unscented, 1 tube of toothpaste, 1 writing pad, lined, 2 ballpoint pens, blue, and 1 item that I had to cross-reference with the commissary catalog because I didn't recognize the code. Item 7714, postage stamps, book of 20. Someone in a sealed building was writing letters. I went to the mailroom the next morning. Comfort's mailroom is operated by a civilian contractor, a man named Westlake, who'd been doing it for 9 years. I asked him directly whether any outgoing mail originated from an inmate named Thomas Ephraim. Westlake went pale, not metaphorically. The color left his face so fast I thought he was having a medical event. "Who told you that name?" he said. "I found it in the commissary records." "You need to leave." "I'm just asking." "You need to leave my mailroom right now, Officer Mallory. And you need to not come back. And you need to stop saying that name in places where people can hear you." He wasn't threatening me. He was terrified. His hands were shaking. This was a man in his 50s, a postal contractor who sorted letters for a living, and he was shaking like I'd put a gun on his desk. I left. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my apartment, a 1-bedroom rental 3 miles from the facility, and I wrote down everything I knew. The order forms, the red-tagged bag, the light in the window, the man in the uniform, the water valve, the stamps. And then I did something that broke the story open, though I didn't know it yet. I searched the facility's public records. Old BOP documents, accessible through FOIA archives online, for any reference to D-Wing's closure in 1995. I found the memo. It was brief. Dated March 3rd, 1995. It stated that D-Wing was being decommissioned due to unresolvable structural concerns, and that all inmates housed therein had been transferred to other facilities. Signed by the warden at the time, a man named Coulter. There was an attached transfer manifest. 14 names. 14 inmates relocated to other BOP facilities across the country. The 14th name was Ephraim Thomas A., transferred to U.S.P. Lewisburg. I searched the Lewisburg records. Thomas Ephraim had never arrived at USP Lewisburg. His transfer was listed as completed in the Comfort records, but never received in the Lewisburg intake logs. He'd left D-Wing on paper, but Thomas Ephraim had never arrived anywhere else. I brought all of this to Hendricks, not Garza. Garza would have buried it. Hendricks, because despite everything, I thought his 26 years meant something. I thought loyalty to the institution might include loyalty to the truth. I found him in the training office after his shift. I laid it all out. The commissary orders, the phantom CO, the utility records, the transfer discrepancy, the stamps, Westlake's reaction. Hendricks listened without interrupting. When I finished, he sat back in his chair and rubbed his face with both hands. "How did you access Donna's workstation?" he asked. "That's not the point." "It absolutely is the point, Mallory. Because what you have here is unauthorized access to restricted systems, violation of facility IT policy, conducting personal investigations outside your post assignment, and harassing a civilian contractor." He leaned forward. "What you don't have is evidence of anything illegal. Someone is living in a sealed building. You don't know that. There's a light on. There are weekly commissary orders. Administrative orders. Staff use. That's what Donna will say. That's what the paperwork says. And the transfer records? Ephraim never arrived at Lewisburg." Hendricks was quiet for a moment. Then he said very carefully, "Mallory, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to hear it. Really hear it. Not as a threat, but as a fact. Okay? 3 people have done what you're doing. In my time here, 3 people noticed, asked questions, pushed. The first was a CO named Rivera. He resigned in 2004 after a disciplinary hearing. The second was a case manager named Wu. She transferred to another facility in 2011. Voluntarily, she said, though she didn't look voluntary. The third was a chaplain. He didn't resign or transfer. He had a breakdown, medical leave, never came back. What happened to them isn't... What happened to them is the only thing that matters, because the building is still sealed. The orders are still going through, and those 3 people are gone. He stood up. Whatever is in D-Wing has been in D-Wing for 30 years. It was there before me. It'll be there after me. The facility runs. The inmates are safe. The BOP doesn't ask questions about D-Wing, and neither does anyone who wants to keep working here. You're telling me to drop it? I'm telling you what survival looks like in this facility. You have a career, you have a pension track, you have 37 men on B-Wing who depend on you being present and functional every night. He walked to the door. Go home, sleep, come back tomorrow and do your job. I did go home. I didn't sleep. At 3 a.m., I drove back to the facility. I had my badge, my uniform, my keys. Night shift was skeleton crew. 2 COs covering A and B wings, 1 roving supervisor. I wasn't scheduled, but badge access doesn't check your schedule. It just checks your clearance level. I entered through the C-Wing staff entrance. The building was quiet. Lights dimmed to overnight levels. The commissary windows shuttered. The corridors empty. I walked to the east corridor, to the bricked-up breezeway. I stood in front of it. Cinder blocks, sealed with morite, painted the same institutional beige as every other wall. No handle, no gap, no way through. But there was sound. Faint, rhythmic, coming from behind the wall or below it. I couldn't tell. A tapping, not mechanical, not pipes, deliberate. Tap, 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 tap. I pressed my ear to the wall. The cinder blocks were warm. And I need you to understand that I was fully awake, fully sober, standing in a lit corridor in a federal facility. A voice came through the wall, not muffled, not distant, clear as if the speaker's mouth were pressed to the other side of the same block my ear touched. Is it Thursday? A man's voice, quiet, patient, polite. I didn't answer. I couldn't. It's only that I haven't received my stamps yet this week, the voice said. If you could check with Donna, I'd appreciate it. I have letters to send. I stepped back from the wall. My heart was doing something that didn't feel sustainable. I opened my mouth. I closed it. I opened it again. Who are you? I said. A pause. Then, with what sounded like genuine puzzlement, I'm Tom. Thomas Ephraim, D-Wing. Another pause. Are you new? You sound new. The wing is sealed, I said. It's been sealed for 30 years. A longer pause this time. When the voice came back, it was slower, thoughtful. Has it been that long? He said. I suppose it has. The days aren't always clear, but I keep busy. I write. I read. They bring the commissary. A soft sound. A breath or a laugh. It's not so bad. I have my routine. How are you alive in there? I'm not sure what you mean. There's no... The building is sealed. No one goes in or out. How are you eating? How are you... The commissary comes, he said, as if explaining something very obvious to a child. Every Thursday, someone brings it through. Through where? But even as I asked, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. The roving supervisor, a CO named Phelps, 15 years on staff, was standing at the corridor entrance. He wasn't hurrying. He wasn't alarmed. He was just standing there, watching me, with an expression I can only describe as tired. Mallory, he said, come away from there. There's someone... I know. Come away. He says his name is Thomas Ephraim. He says he's been in there for 30 years. I know who he says he is. Phelps walked toward me, slowly, the way you approach someone on a ledge. And I need you to come away from that wall and come with me to the break room and sit down. You know? Phelps reached me. He put his hand on my shoulder, not forcefully, gently, almost fatherly. Everyone who works nights long enough hears him eventually. It's not a secret, Mallory. It's just not discussed. How can you? I was sputtering. How can everyone just know and not? Not what? Phelps said. Break through a load-bearing wall in a federal building? Call the BOP and tell them there's a ghost in D-Wing who wants his stamps? What do you want us to do? He's not a ghost. He's a person. He spoke to me. He spoke to all of us. Phelps's hand tightened on my shoulder, just slightly. Mallory, listen to me. The people who bring his commissary, Donna, the man you saw in the corridor, they've been doing it since before I got here, since before Hendricks got here. It's not negligence. It's not cruelty. Someone made a decision a long time ago that whatever is happening in D-Wing is being managed, that it's better managed than investigated. That's not. 3 months ago, a new item appeared on his order form. You know what it was? Birthday candles. 1 box. He's never ordered them before in 12 years of digital records. And it occurred to me, that man, or whatever's in there, is marking time. He knows he's alive. He knows it's been years. And the kindest thing, the only kind thing, might be to make sure he gets his stamps and his coffee and his soap, and to leave him in peace. I stared at Phelps. He stared back. Behind me, through the wall, I heard nothing. The tapping had stopped. The voice was gone. Come have coffee, Phelps said. I'll tell you what I know, which isn't much, but it's more than nothing. We sat in the break room until 5 a.m. Phelps told me that he'd first heard the voice in 2019, that Hendricks had heard it in 2006, that the standing unofficial agreement among long-term night staff was simple. Don't engage, don't investigate, don't report upward. The commissary orders are processed. The bag is delivered. By whom, Phelps didn't know for certain, though he suspected Donna had a key to something the rest of them didn't. The utility connections remain open, and Thomas Ephraim, whoever or whatever he is, remains. What do the letters say? I asked. He buys stamps every week. He's writing to someone. Phelps shook his head. Westlake processes them. Sealed envelopes, proper postage. They go into the outgoing mail like everything else. To whom? I don't know. I didn't ask. I'm not going to ask. Doesn't it bother you? Phelps looked at his coffee. He was quiet for a long time. My first year, he said, I lost sleep over it. I thought about it every night, ran scenarios, considered calling the FBI, the Inspector General, a journalist. And then, one night, I was standing by that wall, and I heard him in there, humming, just humming to himself. Some old song. And I thought, he's not in distress. He's not calling for help. He's not trying to get out. He's just living in there, in whatever way he's living. That doesn't make it okay. No, Phelps said. It doesn't, but it makes it survivable. For me, to keep coming to work. I didn't sleep the next day either, or the day after that. I called in sick for 2 shifts, which triggered a welfare check from Garza. I told him I had a stomach virus.